Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Bolo bolo Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this afternoon's Bhagavad Gita class. The title of it is Mastering the Mind. And it's very, very important for us, as you'll find out by the mercy of Guru and Guranga, the very much need that's there to master the mind, to control the mind. Without further ado, we'll start. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jayom Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajakachaja Stottara Satasishimada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityalila Pavisha Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajakachaja Stottara Satasishimada's Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai अनंत कोटि वैष्णविंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय ISKCON founder Charge Shri Prabhupada की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय सामवेद भक्त बिंद की जय निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Chittapani Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti. Hare Krishna. So, the title for this afternoon's lecture is Mastering the Mind. And the text from the Bhagavad Gita is from chapter 2, which is entitled The Contents of the Gita Summarized. And text 67 is what we are going to be reading from. Indiyanam hicharatam yanmano yuvidiyate tad asya harati pragyam vayunavam ivam hasi. Indiyanam hicharatam yanmano nuvidiyate tadasya harati pragyam vayunavam ivam hasi. Indiyanam hicharanam yanmano nuvidiyate tad asya harati pragyam vayunavam ivam vasi. Hare Krishna. Anyone who wants to chant can do so now.
Indriyanam hicharatam yanmano nuvidhiyate tad asya hariti pragnam vayurnavam ivam bhasi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano anuvidyate tad asya harati pragya vayurnavam ivam bhasi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right, we'll go to it forward. Indriyana of the senses. He certainly. Charatam, while roaming, yat, with which, nama, the mind, anuvidiyate, becomes constantly engaged. Tat, that, asya, his, harati, takes away, pragyam, intelligence, vayu, wind, navam, a boat, eva, like, ambhasi, on the water. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaj Ambarish, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind. Jai. Oma Ginati Mirandasya Gyana Gana Shalakaya Chakshu Amritam Jena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshitarini. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurachise Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the English translation again. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Hare Krishna. You can take it off now. So, this is a very important text for us to consider. It's short, but it's a very, very power-packed text for us in our growth. The senses are the ones that run the activities of the body. We have a body, but the senses are there. When we need to see, the eyes are used. When we need to smell, the nose is used. When we need to hear, the ears are used. When we need to talk, when we need to taste, the tongue is used like that. And of course, touch, of course, the skin, different parts of our body, including our hands and so on, are used for the touching process. So it is actually, although we have these bodies, the senses, and then the working senses also are there. The legs, the hands, the genitals, and so on. The process things, those process, and also the hands and the legs take things for us, move us to different places. Now, in the purpose, in the Prabhupada has made one very important statement. Unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. And with that, I will tell a story from the Srimad Bhagavatam, actually a true story. This is what happened to Maharaj Bharat, who became a deer because he didn't focus his mind on devotion service when he was in the forest. He cared for a deer. He died thinking about the deer. So he was born in a deer body for a short while. He died again, and he was born as Jat Bharat, another human being. This time, he was very careful to involve himself in devotional service. And he also wanted to make sure that nobody deviates him from devotional service. Therefore, he acted like he was not a sane person. The people who are insane, people tend to leave them alone. Other people tend to leave them alone. You can't do anything with this person. So he was under the radar, for lack of a better way of putting it, under the spiritual radar. Nobody knew how elevated he was. But he was Bharat Maharaj that 2 lifetimes back was the king, the emperor of the planet. Now, because he kept himself incognito, there was a king, Maharaj Rahugan, and he was being carried to a place actually, he was also going for something connected with spirituality. The carriers were carrying him on a palanquin, and they needed one more person. And so they were going on the path where Jat Bharat could be spotted. They saw him and decided, well, this guy, he doesn't look so together, but if you look at his body build, he's got some strength. So why don't we just add him to this? So they got Jat Bharat, and this elevated soul, who is incognito, gave him the task of joining the others to carry the palanquin. And he is a very advanced person. Nobody knew because of the way he was carrying himself. He had a Brahmin thread on, but he was dirty. So people didn't even consider that. They thought he was just insane. Now, he's very careful. This time, very, very, very careful, because the previous life he's been in a deer body. He didn't want to make any spiritual mistakes anymore. So as he was carrying the palanquin with some of the others, the others too, the king was in the palanquin on top of it. He would see ants crossing the road, the path, and he didn't want to step on the ants. Again, we cannot just kill living entities just because they're smaller than us. He could see, therefore, he would try to avoid them. And in doing so, he wasn't moving in step with the others that were carrying the palanquin. So what happened? Well, if he breaks and others are going, the palanquin is going to jerk, which is what happened. Maharaj Rahugan was disturbed about it, and he questioned the palanquin carriers, who obviously were in the role of being servants of the king. And they said that it's not us. It's this new person that we got, referring to Jat Bharat, that caused this problem. So then Maharaj Rahugan mildly chastised Jat Bharat, and they resumed the carrying. Again, Jat Bharat, a little distance further, he saw some more insects crossing the path. So he did the same thing. He braked, the others were moving, and the palanquin jerked again. And this time, Maharaj Rahugan got very upset. And so he got down from the chariot and he started chastising heavily Jat Bharat. Jat Bharat did not respond to the king. The king went on and on and on and on and on. And after he finished, then Jat Bharat began to preach to him. Now, we can go on with the preaching. He was basically talking about things that are also in the Bhagavad Gita. We're not these bodies. And Maharaj, you are chastising me, being sarcastic. But it all pertains to the body, and I'm not the body. Now, what happened was, imagine this. The palanquin carriers were moving in sync. So the palanquin was being enjoyed by Maharaj Rahugan because they were carrying him. One situation with only one of the carriers, just one. All the others were moving in sync. Just because Jat Bharat braked and fell out of sync of the others, the entire palanquin got disturbed. And Maharaj Rahugan also got disturbed. So our senses have all got to be doing their duties properly in Krishna consciousness. If we even take one of them into doing something that is not beneficial to our Krishna consciousness growth, then the entire Krishna consciousness growth is affected. That is the situation that we're in. Now, immediately you might say, well, I'm not a pure devotee, therefore some things might happen. Sometimes I'm using some senses, and some of the senses we use for material things. Yes, we have been involved in helter-skelter type of life, all over the place, that is, material life. And now we've come to Krishna consciousness. So slowly, or as Prabhupada describes it, is a gradual process of putting all the ducks in a row. That is our situation. Purification, true enough, doesn't happen overnight, but we should aspire for it. That's why in the purpose, the Prabhupada says that unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them, like in this case, Jat Bharat, moving not in sync with the rest of them through the entire thing of carrying the palanquin off. So just one of the senses can deviate a devotee from the path of advancement. So Maharaj Ambarish, the pure devotee of the Lord, very pious king, he is famous for using all of his senses in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The pure devotees live a life that we can aspire to live. By their example and by their teachings, we grow and grow and grow until the point where Krishna is satisfied with how much effort that we've put in serving. Then he would allow us to come back home. The effort attracts the mercy. So we should also put in effort to control our senses. Now, there is a certain way, or there are certain qualities that we should have in order to be able to do that. And that's going to come later on in this. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, by the way, canto means division, so the 9th division, 9th canto, chapter 4, text 18, 19, and 20. So that's about Maharaj Ambarish. Sabai mana Krishna Paramhindayo, Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanuvarnane, Karao Hare Mandira Majanadishu, Shrutim Chakara Chuta Sat Katodaye. That's text 18. Text 19. Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane Drisho Tat Britya Gatra Sprashinga Sangamam Granham Chat Tat Pada Saroja Sharabe Shemat Tulasya Darshanam Tat Arpite. Text 20. Pada Hare Kshetra Padanu Sapane Shiro Hishikesha Pada Vivandane Kamam Jadashe Natu Kama Kamyaya Yato Tama Shloka Janashraya Rati. This is about King Amrish. He fixed his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. He was always thinking about the Lord. He engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord. He engaged his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord. He engaged his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord. He used his eyes to see the form of the Lord, that is the deity. His body in touching the body of the devotee. His nostrils in smelling the fragrance of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. And his tongue was used in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him and also prasadam. His legs were used in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated. Krishna's temple is situated. He used his head in offering obeisances to the Lord. And the desires that he had were only desires to fulfill the Lord's desires or to satisfy the Lord's senses. Now, all of these qualifications made him fit to become a high level, as we call it, matpara devotee of the Lord. So he was using all of his senses, including the mind. He fixed his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, text 65, Man mana bhava bhakto. Man mana, always think of me. Mad bhakto, become my devotee. Mam yaji mam namaskuru. You offer obeisances to me and worship me. He says that. And what happens from doing that? For doing those four things, you will come to me without a doubt. So we'll remain Krishna conscious if we do that. And at the end of life, the soul will come out of the body and leave the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and sense of identity, the ego, and expand and go to, for us, Golok Vrindavan. Fortunate we get to go to Golok Vrindavan if we take this process seriously. We are doing all kinds of activities every day. And for the body and for the material things, we only need to do what is necessary to keep the body going. The rest of the time, it's all for Krishna. That's the way our lives should be. And if we do that, then just like Maharaj Amrish became a Matpara, high-level devotee of the Lord, we will also grow in Krishna consciousness. So we have to be careful not to let our minds and any of our senses stray from Krishna consciousness. Very important. So this is about sense control. And Srila Prabhupada, in one of his lectures, it was Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, I think it's text 28, he was preaching on that, about the glories and the prayers, I should say, the prayers of Queen Kunti. He talked about controlling the senses. He says, all you have to do is to engage the senses in serving the lotus feet of the Lord, in serving the spiritual master, and in serving the devotees. If you use all the senses to serve like that, the senses will be automatically controlled. So we don't have to go through some very, very elaborate program to try to control the senses. Just use the senses for serving the Lord, serving in the temple, serving other devotees. And he says, once we use the service in the service of Rishikesh, master of the senses. Krishna is also called Rishikesh. Rishik means senses. And so Rishikesh is master of the senses. So if we serve him like that in Krishna consciousness, then our senses will be controlled. So we need to be asking ourselves, how much am I serving? Am I serving at all? If I'm not serving, then it means my senses are going haywire. They're not helping me in Krishna consciousness. And the more we use our senses in serving the Lord and the Lord's devotees, the better we become. We advance more in Krishna consciousness. We literally advance more just by using the senses to serve the Lord. So, in Bhagavad Gita, the same chapter 2, the text after that, 68, Tasmadiyasya Mahabaho Nigritam Sarvasha Indriya Indriyani Devyas Tasya Pacha Patisita. So Srila Prabhupada translates this, that Krishna is saying, therefore, O mighty arm, referring to Arjuna, one whose senses are restrained from their object is certainly of steady intelligence. One whose senses is blocked by their own mind, the mind controls the senses, from sense objects, material sense objects, is an intelligent person. Because that person realizes that we have to go back to Godhead. And the material activities here, just to enjoy our senses or gratify the senses, is not the way out of this terrible place. So Srila Prabhupada explains that we can curb the forces of sense gratification only by Krishna consciousness, or engaging all, again, the key word is all the senses, not some of them, in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So enemies are curbed by a superior force. Just like in a war, when one side is stronger, then the other side is defeated because the other side is considered the enemy. So enemies can be curbed and controlled by a superior force. The senses can similarly be curbed, but not by human endeavor. So we shouldn't try to plan some things materially to say, oh, we're going to be able to control our senses by our own strategy. Again, just keep them engaged in the service of the Lord. And speaking about using the senses, the services, it can be any service as long as it is part of Krishna conscious activities. But there's something else that would help us to grow in Krishna consciousness using the senses. The more menial the tasks that we undertake, the more humble we become. And humility is key, literally, very important to growth in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, nobody should be turned off by service opportunities simply because they consider that service to be menial. It's especially if we say, oh, I can't see myself do that. This is below me. Nothing is below anyone else. All services are the same category. They're looked at that way. There's cleaning, and then there's also pujari work. So the pujari is on the altar and doing service to the deities. And there's also service, even cleaning the bathrooms or arranging or putting the chairs back all of those ones are considered menial. But Srila Prabhupada explains that the service is looked at the same level. Service is absolute. Spiritually, that's the way it's looked at. So nobody should think that because there's a devotee that's on the altar doing pujari work, that he or she is getting better spiritual credits or more spiritual credits than the person that arranged the chairs and the person that just wiped the tables and so on. It's all at the same level. It's regarded the same way. Nobody gets more spiritual credits because they are on the altar. Everything is looked at in terms of just what needs to be done. True enough, the person that is on the altar has learned some mantras. There's certain ways in which they have to do that service. But that does not mean that just because they know mantras that others don't know, that they are better off. No. All activities are on the absolute platform. None is better than the other. They're not looked at that way. So one who has understood this, that we have to engage our senses, he or she has to engage the senses in the service of the Lord, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence. That person will also know that the practice of Krishna consciousness should be under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. A person that understands that is called a sadhaka, or suitable candidate for liberation, going back to Godhead. So by Krishna consciousness service, using all of our senses, and it's important, the key word is all, because if we don't use some of our senses, then whatever sense, even one, just like this text tells us, even one can pull a person away from the path of devotion. One. So what should be going on in our minds is, all right, so now I'm hearing it this way. I know my senses. Am I using my senses? All of it? Sometimes there's some points that devotees bring up about their own weakness on some parts of Krishna consciousness. A common complaint about it is, I'm trying to chant and my mind is roaming someplace else. Mind is the sixth sense, as it's said in the Shastra. My mind is roaming, something is going on, something material. And so the mind actually has been used to just going wherever it wants to for many lifetimes before now being arrested and brought into Krishna consciousness. That is, we turn our minds now to Krishna consciousness. And when we are chanting the holy name of the Lord, wonderful Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the saving mantra, the mantra for salvation, mantra for taking us out of this material world, then my mind is not cooperating. My mind is going here and there and everything else. Now, when we're chanting, and that happens to us, and after a while we realize that we're not concentrating on the holy name. Intelligence kicks in like that. And we pull the mind back to remembering Krishna while we chant. Srila Prabhupada explains that is progress. Because what is going to happen is, initially, there will be that problem of the mind roaming some. But it will not be that way forever. What helps us in chanting better? Believe it or not, devotional service. The more eager we are to do devotional service, the happier we become. And from that happiness, we just automatically think of Krishna more than we used to do. And from thinking of Krishna that way, when we mention Krishna's name, we become happy just chanting. And if we're happy with something, we will stay with it, and our minds will be focused on it too. Right now, at this stage, many of us can't quite connect to Krishna the way pure devotees connect to Krishna automatically and happily. When we're talking to someone, we call their name, we are definitely focused the whole time in that conversation that we're having with them or discussion that we're having with them. We don't seem to have any problem there. The same mind that we use in chanting. So how come when it comes to that, then we have a problem when it comes to chanting? It's because we are not really connected in a very, very, very distinct, in a very, very, lack of a better word, a very, well, let's say more intense, that's the word, more intense way with the Lord. The person that is talking to us and we having a discussion with is right in front of us, or maybe on the phone, we can hear their voice. And we're concentrating on what we're saying. So that's for the mind, it's not difficult to stay with the concentration, focusing on what's being talked about. But since we have been away from Krishna, away from loving Krishna for such a long time, we haven't developed a close enough bond for Krishna, and therefore it's got to the point where we're trying to train the mind to be more loving, connect with Krishna in prema, in love. When that happens, there will be no problem in concentrating when you're chanting the Lord's name. If we love Krishna and we're calling the name of the one that we love, why would we think of anything else? So this is our process. It takes a while, but if we stay with it, the chanting quality will improve. But it is also very important to use our senses in other aspects of devotional service and do it from the bottom of our hearts. Do it with intensity. Do it with the best ability. Give all activities in Krishna consciousness our best shot. That will bring happiness right from the heart. The soul is situated in the heart. And from there, that happiness will be transferred to better quality of chanting. In that way, we will actually be we'll find that it's easier to establish what my Guru Maharaj calls strong rounds, or rounds with great focus. And the chanting alone will make us even happy at the time we're chanting. And then we'll call Krishna's name. It all has to do with our quality of service. The senses are not perfect, but they still can be used. We are in this human body with enough intelligence to discriminate properly compared to what the other souls who are not in human bodies, animals and birds and plants and fish and so on. We have this opportunity. So if we do things with great focus and with the intention to do our very best, that service will also translate into good chanting, good focus, and slow increase in happiness, in service. Now, Krishna also gives more clues about a person who becomes very, very, very dear to Krishna. And that is in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, text 13 and 14. Now, first he says, a person who is not envious. Krishna is speaking now. One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities. One who does not think himself the proprietor and is free from false ego. A person who is equal in both happiness and distress. One who is tolerant and always satisfied. Self-control, and with that, also engage in devotional service, putting their best foot forward, engage in devotional service with determination, with the mind and intelligence fixed on Krishna, Krishna says, that kind of devotee is very dear to me. So this is the qualities that we need to develop. A person is not envious of anyone. Our disease that brought us to the material world was we were envious of Krishna. So we shouldn't be envious of anyone, because if we're envious of anyone, then it means that our original disease of being envious of Krishna is still there. How do we know? Well, whatever the reason is that we are envious of someone, whatever that reason is, Krishna has that particular quality several fold. Krishna has it all. So if we envy someone because of some abilities they have or some things that they may own, you consider Krishna has that, he owns everything. So how in the world can we be envious of someone for something material here on this prison that we're in? Be envious and think that when it comes to Krishna, no, that is the Supreme Personality of God. We're not going to be envious. No, that quality has not gone yet. So if we're envious of anyone, we will be envious of Krishna, which means we can't go back to Godhead. So we shouldn't be envious of anyone. If there's something, here's one of the things you can do about envy. If there's something that we're envious about, first, our intelligence to kick in and say, I am sabotaging myself by this envy. What should I do? Well, we can say, oh, pray to get that envy off of me. Well, that may be one of the ways. But whatever it is, you start praying that that person, having that whatever thing that we're envious of, uses that thing in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. Pray that that person's mind may turn to service with that very thing that you're envious of. And that way, you're putting your mind in the right perspective, because you're hoping well for the person that you're envious of. So then the energy gets turned into a positive energy. The negative energy of being envious now turns into a positive energy through prayer. And remember, prayer is also one of the 9 ways in which we serve. Devotion service. Prayer is one of them. But it is not material prayers for material things. No. We should pray for spiritual activity. So sometimes we are in a situation where we get into some distress, some difficulty comes. A devotee's thought should be that it's the Lord's mercy. I have been in here in different lifetimes, done all kinds of negative things, taking one body after another, and never went back to Godhead. So I myself, spiritually, I'm a criminal. So there has to be reactions to my sins. So a devotee thinks that because of my past misdeeds, I'm suffering just a token of the sinful reaction. Therefore, we tolerate. And we've seen this happen to devotees that were really putting in their efforts to serve. And I remember one particular Mataji in Gitanagri. She served so well, but still, before she left, she got into all kinds of medical complications. Now, a devotee would think, this is the mercy of the Lord. Whatever it is that needs to be cleared that I've done in this lifetime that is negative, Krishna is giving me token chastisement so that it doesn't go against me, and the way is cleared for me to go back to Godhead. So that is the way we should look at it. The punishment should be more severe. I'm just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if we think that way, then we become calm, patient, and tolerant. And as you know, in everything, it never lasts. And material things that happen, they come and they go. We also should be kind to everyone. And kindness helps us to not only stay in Krishna consciousness, but also get people very, very comfortable being in association of devotees. Look at it the other way. If a devotee is not kind to others, who's going to want to be around them? And then if they are unkind to so many people, it will get to a point where some people might say, I really would like to come to this temple, but this person gives me so many problems. I think I'll just maybe not come. So kindness is extremely important. If you're kind, though, then people are happy with us. They say the same person would think, when I come here, these people always help me, especially people who are new. They come to Krishna consciousness. These people are, new. I remember in Washington, very helpful. I remember in Washington, D.C., there was one devotee that came in. She got initiated later on. And her name was, when she got initiated, Nisha Devidasi. I remember it like it was yesterday. She got an opportunity. This was like the second time she visited the very small center that we had in Washington, D.C. at the time. And she actually got up and told the whole set of devotees with Michael Maharaj sitting there. He said, now this was even before she got initiated, I'm very comfortable here because of how wonderfully I've been treated by all of you. Mm-hmm. Devotees were just kind to her. And she was very, very happy with that. Later on, she actually gave quite a bit of donation, literally to even help the real estate bills or invoices for one of the property that my spiritual master actually lived in Giranagri. Literally almost 70% of the amount for the cost of the property she put up just by being comfortable with devotees. So kindness goes a long way. Mm-hmm. Now, there will be problems with our bodies. Mm-hmm. Devotee doesn't attach too much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to this body because we know we're not these bodies. You do the best to deal with the situation to keep the body functional. We shouldn't go out of our way to get all shook up, as they say in America, emotionally because of what the material body is doing. We're not these bodies. But we have to keep them in as good a shape as possible. This is part of life here. The soul doesn't go through any pain, but the body sometimes does. So we learn to be tolerant. Do the best that we can and still keep serving. Don't use that as an excuse not to serve. Now, sometimes we put in some endeavor to achieve some things. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. We shouldn't put too much emotion behind our endeavors. We should endeavor, but the prayer should be, if it is your will, Lord, make it work out. And if it's not meant for me, and that's all right. That way. We're talking about endeavor for material things now. For spiritual, we always should put in our very best. So also, instructions from the spiritual master, we have to take it very, very seriously because that's how we grow. The spiritual master, who is he? He's a representative of Krishna. So instructions good for us come through the spiritual master. We don't have our full ability to connect with even the deity. We don't. We are that fallen. Therefore, Krishna has arranged for a spiritual master to represent him and guide us. So what he says, the bona fide spiritual master, we should follow. When we are fixed in Krishna consciousness, sometimes we'll be in situations where some people will just put some false arguments. When we are determined and fixed in devotional service, those arguments should never sway our minds. This does happen sometimes. The body comes, I'm very, 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 very excited about Krishna consciousness. Next time they go someplace else, Next thing you know, they're not coming again. You hear about them. Oh, the demigods and Krishna, they're all one. That's already the second offense in chanting the holy names of the Lord. So false arguments, the basis of false arguments is somebody saying that Krishna is not the supreme personality of Godhead. As soon as you say that, you hear that, you get out of there. You get out of there, especially if the person is adamant and doesn't want any proof from you that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And they're going to tell you something else. Leave the place. So that way, then no one can disturb our Bhakti Kripa. So yes, it is possible to develop these qualities. Some people may be thinking, oh, but we said so many things. I have to be like this, like this, like this. The answer is yes, but gradually. Stay in the association of devotees. Take advice from devotees. Watch what senior devotees who are fixed up do. Ask questions. And slowly but surely, you will in fact become better and better and better and better and better. And we've seen this happen. Tell you a joke. Well, in a sense, it's a joke. But Gita Nagari one time, there was one Mataji who came from Philadelphia Temple to Gita Nagari because she couldn't get along with any of the devotees there. So many problems she's having. So finally, the temple president, who's also a guru at the time, temple president at the time, he's still a guru, decided that he should come to Gita Nagari and be with the devotees. So she got all kinds of, situations. Her thoughts about things were kind of weird, but she came. And yeah, as you might expect, devotees had issues with her. Some of us liked her and we talked with her and listened to what she had to say. And we could also tell that she needed quite a bit of growth to happen. But over time, of associating with devotees, many of those things that were problems that she carried just began to go away. As it's described in the Shastras, like birds that are troublesome birds land on the body, and when you take Krishna consciousness seriously, they begin to fly away. And she made one comment in a meeting, the devotees had a meeting, and she was just comfortable enough to say that. She said, I used to be like so, and then she listed all of these negative things. And then she said, now she's not talking about they're gone now. She just said, when other new devotees come and they try to do the same, they start doing the same negative things that it reminds me of how I used to be. And we all started laughing because it was true. But devotees are tolerant. So we're saying that to say, things will change. We just have to be willing to put in the effort to be better people, and we will become better people. That's exactly what Krishna wants us to happen. So it to happen to us. Now, our senses have to be regulated. When we are regulated, and the things that we do in devotional service will be fine. So the conclusion is, we shouldn't be envious. This is just a quick summary. We should be friendly. We should be kind. We shouldn't have a sense of proprietorship. I own this, I own this. No, anything that's with us is in our, we say we own, it's actually, the devotee is not thinking they own. It's with me, being given to me for a little while, my lifetime. So we don't have a sense of proprietorship. We should not have false ego. Simple ways, we are servants of the Lord. We're not controllers. Don't let the stress bother us so much. Even happiness, yeah, it's the Lord's mercy. Thank Him for that. We should be forgiving and we should engage in devotional service. That will give us self-control. And with determination, we will in fact be successful in going back to Godhead. And for that, Krishna says anybody who has these qualities is a devotee that is very dear to me. So now, understanding that the senses shouldn't be stopped from working, but they should just be turned from the material things that we used to enjoy with to Krishna conscious activities. This is the way that we control the senses and become master of our senses. Shira Prabhupada ki jai. So thank you, dear devotees, for this afternoon's a little bit of lecture here. It's for my own purification also. This is the time now to unmute yourself. Hit the the audio icon, the bottom of whatever device you're using, computer or cell phone. And then you can jump in and make comments or ask questions or share some things that your own realizations that connect with what we're talking about today. Or you can ask questions that don't even connect directly with this. And we'll be happy to have a Krishna Katha discussion about it. Hare Krishna. Please go ahead, Nancy.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisance, O Gosha
Self
Prabhupada.
mind, go.
Can you share a pastime, of Maharaj Ambarish? I don't know whether you did, but
a pastime, but okay.
Because Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, so I'm curious to hear the pastime and
There
connecting
is
it to
one
this
very,
verse.
very, very popular pastime. Popular in terms of the fact that many devotees have India lectures mentioned this. Very interesting. And it has something to do with envy, by the way. So this was Maharaj Amrish. He was actually fasting, which is a certain point. He was fasting for the welfare of the citizens. Fasting and connecting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service for the welfare of the citizens. He was a king who was doing that. This is how pious he was. Now, the time came for him to break his fast. But just before he broke his fast, just before he was supposed to break his fast, he got a visitor. And a very, very elevated Muni, his name is Durvasa Muni, came to visit. He came to the king. He's quite well known. And the king had to receive him. And usually when someone comes like that, the etiquette is that the visitor should be given prasada first before the king can have, or those who are there regularly. Remember, the king had been fasting, and it's time to break the fast. Durvasa Muni came, and he said, all right, so I'll have prasadam, but let me go wash myself, bathe in the river, and then come back. Then I'll have prasadam. He went, unbeknownst to Maharaj Ambarish. Durvasa Muni was actually envious of Maharaj Ambarish. He was. That obviously didn't get discussed, but this Bhagavatam talks about it. That was the feeling he had towards Maharaj Ambarish because Maharaj Ambarish, because he was such a good devotee and a king, he was quite popular. He was famous. And that bothered Durvasa Muni because Durvasa Muni has so many mystic powers. And Maharaj Ambarish is being paid more attention to than me. That kind of, this is where the root of the envy. So Durvasa Muni had so many mystic powers, he can tell when he's in one place what's going on in another place. It's called remote viewing. He had that among many other things. So he was in a river bathing. And Ambarish Maharaj told the Brahmanas that are there, what should I do? It is actually time to break the fast. He wasn't even thinking about the fact that he was hungry, but the whole thing is timed. So in a certain place, he has to break the fast. And at the same time, by etiquette, Durvasa Muni has to be fed first. And Durvasa Muni was delaying, actually deliberately delaying because of his envy. So the Brahmins responded that, Maharaj, just take a little Chanamrita water. That's all, to break a fast. And they explained how that is not against the etiquette of serving a guest, but at the same time, we've taken something, therefore he's broken the fast. So Maharaj Ambarish agreed and took a little Chanamrita water. Durvasa Muni, from where he was, he had remote viewing. He could see that happened. So he gets back angry with Maharaj Amrish. And he decided he's going to teach. He's got an excuse now. You didn't follow etiquette because I was supposed to be first person, you didn't. And therefore, he decided that he's got an excuse to try to get rid of Maharaj Amrish. He takes some hair from his body, the top of his head, dashes it on the floor, and a huge, ferocious demon comes. And Maharaj Amrish thinking, all right, so this person wants to take my life. But for him, Maharaj Amrish, he was totally surrendered to the Lord. So he was thinking, dear Lord, if this is supposed to happen, by your will, if this devotee, if this demon wants to take my life, that's up to you. But if not, you do as you want. I'm just a submitted soul, a surrendered soul to you. And as soon as he prayed like that, the Lord's Sudarshan Chakra arrived. And the demon got killed immediately. The Sudarshan Chakra just wasted that demon. So that was the end of that. And then the Sudarshan Chakra went after the Rasamuni. And so the Rasamuni started running away. The Rasamuni just took off, and he had so many powers, so he could just literally fly in the air. But Sudarshan Chakra is a very formidable weapon. And Sudarshan Chakra followed Amrish Maharaj. And Amrish Maharaj trying to go as fast as possible. He went to the heavenly planets. He went different places trying to get help. And all through that, the Sudarshan Chakra was after him. And Sudarshan Chakra is hot. So the back of his body was actually being burnt. Even while the Sudarshan Chakra hadn't touched him yet, just the heat from it was giving the man Rasamuni so much trouble. Finally, he goes to the spiritual world and meets Lord Vishnu and explains the situation. Lord Vishnu says, I can't help you. You have offended my devotee. I cannot help you. The only help you can get is go beg forgiveness from the devotee. So the Rasamuni turns around and comes back with the Sudarshan Chakra still behind him to where Maharaj Amrish was, and then offered his forgiveness to him. And Amrish Maharaj responded by saying, why are you even asking forgiveness from me? You are my guest. And so he was saying, no, there's no need to forgive. But because he took, Rasamuni took the instructions of Lord Vishnu and returned, then Sudarshan Chakra spared his life. So that's the pastime involving Maharaj Amrish. You can't mess with the Lord's devotee. You're going to pay a price, especially if you're the one that's wrong in what you've done. So we have to be careful how we relate to devotees too. Hare Krishna. So that's one pastime about Amrish Maharaj. Any other questions, suggestions?
Can
Hare
you
Krishna.
share how that pastime tied to um, uh, engaging all the senses? I was just remembering yesterday, in one of our training workshops, we spoke about cooking for the Lord,
Yeah.
When we cook for the Lord in the temple kitchen, our senses, all our senses should be engaged in the Lord's services. And, but when we're cooking, of course, we are using our physical senses, right? We are using our hands, our legs,
Yeah.
and
The
cooking
working
this
senses.
and
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, the working senses, right? But then sometimes we are cooking with other devotees, and sometimes we might not be hearing or speaking Krishna consciousness. So I think one of the ways um, that I'm thinking, like when we engage in service with devotees in the temple kitchen, at least one or in the temple, is to either speak about the glories of the Lord, or which that's is very difficult to speak, because sometimes we can say, we'll ask, what do I speak about? But we can definitely play a lecture and play kirtan and bhajan, because just playing a lecture, and kirtan and bhajan will actually engage the ears that we are using for hearing to
Absolutely.
help the mind and the heart, which means we are engaging all the senses. Then, you know, our working senses, our hearing senses, our thinking senses, our whatever senses, everything is tied in Krishna consciousness. I mean, and even if we are not working with devotees, if it's just us alone doing the service, we can still play a lecture, a kirtan or a bhajan, you know, which we can hear while we are engaged in service to the Lord. So
Absolutely.
that's one of the few examples that we can do to engage all our senses in
Yes.
service. So yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. In the kitchen, when we talk, I know Diki said for you next, I see you. We'll get to you in a minute. When we are serving like that, cooking, doing the worship service and cooking, we only need to talk to, if it's somebody else that's there, we only need to talk about the things that pertain to the service that we're doing only. The rest of the time, as Madam here to talk about, you could be listening to a lecture, you can listen to the chanting of the holy name, like that. And that way your mind is on Krishna the whole time. And that's very beneficial. Thank you, actually, bringing it up. Dear Krishna Prabhu, you can unmute yourself now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila
Accept mine,
Prabhupada.
Lord Shri Prabhupada.
Thank you for this very nice class. And
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy.
one question when we talk about mind, for a person who is very new to devotional or Krishna consciousness,
Yeah.
What he can do, somebody who is not involved in service yet, or who might have just theoretical concept of who God is or Krishna is.
Yeah.
How can he slowly and slowly understand or train his mind so that without getting overwhelmed at the same time?
The process of growing in Krishna consciousness is made very simple by Srila Prabhupada. You come to a temple, you see devotees, you associate with them, do what they're doing. Many of these Sanskrit prayers you don't know. We all started off like that. But it's very easy to hear and learn the Hare Krishna mantra because it's very simple. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So start with that. Very new person. They can start with that. And later on, when the Buddhists are having prasadam, it's also a very nice activity. You join in. Then you can ask questions, whatever that's on your mind, or talk about where you've been and how things were like, and why you come to Krishna consciousness. And for that way, this way, then little by little, you get encouraged in Krishna consciousness. Initially, chanting the holy name and just having prasadam. Then little by little, you go to the other things. As you hear lectures and things are making more sense to you, and as asking questions too, or hearing questions that are being answered by others who are asking them, then slowly you begin to grow. The mind will be more convinced. And then you'll be interested in finding out more about Krishna consciousness. And that is the ticket towards your growth. Thank you for asking the question.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions?
We have a new devotee that just joined us, Carlos from Lancaster.
Yeah.
And I think he has a question. Welcome, Carlos. We're happy that you joined us, found us right at the nick of time. So if you have a question.
Let me interrupt you for a second.
Sure.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Just right back. Just maybe 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
So if you need to, and it can be off topic, Carlos, is completely fine, so don't feel out of place. You can either unmute yourself if you want, or you can put it in the chat, whichever suits you is fine.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so I just wanted to connect with the temple a little bit more because I was actually in Atlanta with Krishna Life for a month.
Haribol, very nice. Yes, I know them.
Yeah. So
Krishna Life? Okay. Where is that?
Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to see if because you guys are kind of far from me, and
You're in Lancaster. You're like 40 minutes away, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't really have reliable transportation. Like I don't really drive or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If there was if you guys knew of any house programs nearby that I could attend like on a regular basis or something like that, you know, and I would like to go to the temple as like often as I can. I was actually gonna try to go today, but
The snow.
The weather had something to do with it. Okay.
a little bit. So yeah, I just wanted to see how I could like connect with you guys more and just get more involved with my local temple.
Would love to have you. What we can do, Carlos, is if you want to call me after the program, like after this lecture, and we can talk more. Will
Okay,
that help? Let me put my number in the chat, and then you can call me after, and we can brainstorm. How's that?
sure, I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah? Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, and if you can also get his address, we can figure
Yes.
out something here.
Yes.
Yeah, when
Yes.
you talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will definitely do that
So,
too. So
Hare Krishna Carlos, by the way, I come from Reading, so I go to temple every week from Reading, about 30 minutes from you, Lancaster.
Okay.
yeah, so that is one way. That's why because Dear Krishna has to pass Lancaster to come to the temple,
Hmm.
and he comes every Sunday. In
Well, it's
fact,
not far.
he
He's not
also
far
brings
away from Lancaster. Okay,
yeah, and he brings Shane. So he's one of our great carpoolers, is Dear Krishna Prabhu, you know.
that
He
service
brings
is
Shane
goddamn
also
now.
with him. So we'll
Just a
talk.
warning, it may cost you a fortune. That's just a warning.
No. He's messing with you, Carlos. You know that. Yeah, I just I just Zoom chatted you my contact. So call me after the program and we'll talk. How's that?
That's perfect.
Okay. And we'll try to work, like I said, Krishna's arrangement, Dear Krishna he passes Lancaster every Sunday on the way. So we
Awesome.
can
Right.
definitely arrange, and then you'll get to the temple more often. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah, if
So
he can pick me up on the way, that'd be great.
Great. There you go. You got a thumbs up from him. So we'll talk after. We'll exchange phone numbers, address, and then we'll take it from there. Okay?
All right, sounds good.
Thank
Right.
you. Hare Krishna, Carlos.
Hare Krishna. So there's a question in the chat too from Vajagopi. And it says, what's the name of the demon? Well, I hate to disappoint you, but in about the demon that the Duvas Muni manifested practically when he got upset with Ambrish Maharaj. I remember in the Bhagavatam, it says a very fiery demon came. The name was not given. The name was not given. I'm very sure about that. I would have called, or at least looked it up. The name was not given. But the other thing is, the demon actually didn't last. So I didn't even bother to give a name because, Sudarshan Chakra came, practically immediately came. The demon came, the Sudarshan Chakra came in. So he never was able to attack Ambrish Maharaj, do anything to Ambrish Maharaj. And the demon was killed immediately. No name is given. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Anyway.
If there are no questions, I'll just make some few announcements when you wrap up. You done?
Yes.
Lecture? Okay.
Yeah,
So we want to thank all the devotees for coming on. We're all happy that even though the weather is crazy out there, but we're still able to meet online and and use this forum to really connect. That's amazing. So at least we don't miss out on our daily Sunday programs. And it's about 6 inches out here right now, I think, in Mechanicsburg. So please stay warm, stay safe. I know around a couple of hours we have to go out, not me, but some of us have to go out and shovel the snow. So be careful. Don't slip and fall, take care of yourselves because we want to see everyone next Sunday. So next Sunday, we will definitely have our Sunday program. As looks like it's going to be, so far good weather. So definitely we look forward to seeing everybody next Sunday. Until then, have a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay warm. Vanchakraptibhyascha,
Papatruvyasya
Kripasindabevacha,
kripasindhivacam
Patitanam
patitanam
Pavanebhyo,
pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo.
Namo Namaha,
Om
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai. Thank you again.
Kritika
Great.
demon, that's the name she said. No,
Kritika?
Kritaya. Kritaya, that's the name that Solochana just said. The
Okay.
name of the demon name is
Oh, that's
Kritaya.
wonderful. I don't remember that even the name was given, unless you got
Well,
it somewhere else. But
he
Baba
found the
Tamari, I
answer.
never saw the movie. Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
We got the
Wonderful.
name.
You know,
Okay.
that's
Hare
great.
Krishna
That's
Mataji, Kritya Demon, Kritya. I heard from some Santa Maharaj from some Santa, yeah, Kritya Demon, yeah.
Okay, so you
okay.
heard from a
Good.
guru. Well,
So
perfect.
now
At
we
least
all
someone
know.
got the answer.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Hare
When I
Krishna.
read in the Bhagavatam, I never saw the name, so I don't know. Sometimes others, I know other shastras tell you more, or do gurus tell you more also. That happens.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Jai.